after this disruption in our world will bring that corresponding event into the room. And meaning, ever shifting, will change, and we will have to acknowledge that we and it continue to reach toward each other, struggling to understand something that will not hold still. The historical interpretation, the agreed-upon story of what is being said in these images, is only part of the process of discerning what it all means. To stand in the room and look at the images and allow them into your life, to wrap themselves around your own memories, and to feel what a great work of art means to you is another thing entirely. To revisit after a big event in your life or in the world provides an opportunity to see the changes in you reflected in it. I wandered through the museums, through the gallery of paintings, outside on the terraces, and down the long corridors, and when I finally reached the stairs just outside the Sistine Chapel, I stopped and took a picture because I'd never seen them empty before. And then I went inside. There were only about a dozen people in the silent room, all wearing masks, keeping their distance from each other, and trying to look straight up without falling over. These were the ideal circumstances that I had been dreaming about, though I was sorry it took a pandemic to clear the room and allow me to finally have a good look at the ceiling and the altar wall. The others also seemed a little overwhelmed by the opportunity to visit this room in peace. I found myself thinking about all the times I'd come to this chapel, all the evenings I'd spent looking at images of the frescoes online and in books. This time, I was immediately drawn to the figure of Mary next to Christ in the Last Judgment. The dominant color in that enormous fresco is blue, but the blue of Mary's robes, which appear to be tossed over her legs like a blanket, appears reflective and shiny. I was drawn straight to her, as though the whole thing had been about her, and for the first time I thought, yes, in a way, for me it really has been all about her, about the way that learning to construct meaning is passed down from past to present, from mother to child. Something has happened to interrupt the flow of ordinary life, and it reminds me of how often the flow has been interrupted before. In saying that Italy experienced plague, experienced it during Michelangelo's tenure in Rome, and then moving on to talk about the altar wall fresco, I am moving too quickly. I have more of a feeling for that kind of calamity than I did when I first visited the Sistine Chapel. Plague and war were the existential threats that too often decimated populations in the Renaissance era. Perhaps such threats helped to reinforce ideas of eternity after death, when this life seemed less certain. Michelangelo's return to the Sistine Chapel after such destruction was a show of faith in art, as much as anything. For me, returning to see it is a show of faith in this work of art's capacity to point backward and then forward in time, to sweep me up and make me feel more connected to a bigger human project than I ever imagined was possible before I decided to pay attention to the Sistine Chapel frescoes. 1. The central panels. In the beginning. I made many visits over a few years, enough that I lost track of how often I'd gone. But it wasn't until the third time I visited the Sistine Chapel that it all started to change. It was March, and the shifting season offered its familiar hints of renewal. No matter that the seasons change and spring arrives every year, I can't help but respond to it with optimism. And so I set out that morning for Vatican City on a whim, without any heavy hopes or sense of obligation. I had an unexpected free day, and I thought, why not? I made my way through the rooms and corridors of the Vatican museums, trying not to linger, trying not to engage too much too soon, and risk ending up exhausted before I even got there. When I stepped into the Sistine Chapel that morning, it was quite full, though not as jammed as the first time I saw it the summer before, when the space felt hot with the exhalation of hundreds of miserable souls. It was still full enough that I bumped into people, and they bumped into me as we moved around with our heads bent uncomfortably backward. A couple of women sat on the floor and leaned back to stare at the ceiling more comfortably, but an official, known unofficially as a shusher, indicated that they should rise. He and other shushers moved through the crowd of upturned faces.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.